What is going on, guys? Corrosive Bullet here. Today, now that the ban list is going to be going into effect this week, I wanted to kind of talk about how the meta is going to shift going towards the latter end of the second season in Fusion World. And especially right before set 3 starts really getting into like the heavy reveals, and before that comes out, kind of wanted to just break down where I think all these leaders and these decks kind of stand. Before we actually get into it, though, I do want to say, like, this is just 100% my opinion. This is in no way like a breakdown or a tier list that actually heavily defines what the meta is actually doing. This is more so just like where I personally have seen it, just from off of my own experiences and from what I've seen at my own like locals and tournaments and stuff like that. So again, like, it's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Like, maybe you guys feel a little bit differently about some of these decks than I do, and that's perfectly okay. But I at least wanted to just kind of talk about it and just kind of give my thoughts and opinions. So, but anyway, let's kind of get into it. But let's start off with the obvious. Top Coup. Top Coup right now he could be better. The ban list heavily affected Top Coup. He is not the leader that he once was. Losing the speed at which he's able to self-awaken, having a strong card like Brienne for late game to be able to double strike heavily with Glimpse and stuff, and not being able to play as wide because of the limit to Kefla. Like, all of these cards that really made Top Coup stand out after the ban list, like, he's just not that guy anymore. I've tried building him several ways. I've tried building him control. I've tried building him maybe more on the tall side. And, yeah, he's just not... His ability itself, like, kind of is a little unfortunate, because playing 3 costs and less off his leader ability does not feel as good as... it does not feel as good as playing the 4-drop, especially with a card like Kefla that's able to, like, kind of help him build wide. Maybe once set 3 comes out and there's a bit more support for this guy. We already got a 3-drop Vegeta that's able to go to like 50,000 power, and he's 3 cost as well. So he can be played off of the Kefla. Like, maybe that would be a cool strat to like have in this deck. But as he currently stands right now within the current meta, like, he's just not there. He's not that same leader that everyone was griping about before. And I think that's fine. But I definitely want to see this guy come back at some point. I want him to be a little bit stronger. At least put him in like the flex tier or like the standout tier. At the very least, I want to see some usability, but I don't think we're going to see much usability with Top Coup right now. So, all right, well, we'll just go in order between all the colors and kind of go from there. So, we're going to start with Starter Coup. Starter Coup, I'm going to set in flex. I'm going to set him in flex, mainly due to the fact that he's a very standard leader. He doesn't really do anything that's like super crazy. Being able to use his ability on offense and on defense to kind of to either go a little bit more aggro on your opponent or to be a little bit more defensive and protective of your board. It's a good ability, but it's so generic. And I think when you're running stuff like, when you're running like the Trio of Danger cards and like other kind of like niche cards that don't really have a whole lot of support with other existing leaders, I think like Starter Cou's a great leader for stuff like that. But but I think there's just other better red leaders, just in my opinion. I think Starter Coup could be doing more, and I think he's good for just the generic aspect for cards that just don't get that help or that synergy with the leader. But I think there's just better, personally. Kind of like U7 Goku here. U7 Goku, I think, is a bit better than Starter Coup. They both kind of do the same thing, except Goku is a bit more on the wider spectrum. Being able to boost all of your Universe 7 cards up by 5 adds a little bit of extra aggression that other red decks just don't really seem to give at the moment. And with all the red stuff that came out in set 2, all the stuff that came out in set 2 makes U7 a lot better. So I put him here in the flex tier above Starter Coup just because he can stand out. He can stand out pretty well compared to some of the other compared to some of the other stuff in the game at the moment. But it's really going to be dependent on your matchup. Because sometimes you could go up against a bad matchup and he could just be better. But I think for what he does, I think for the support that he got in set 2, and just compared to starter Ku, I think he is just better. And I think he's a really good flex option. I think you could take this guy to locals and maybe even some regionals and maybe surprise some people depending on how you build him. But as it stands right now, I think he's a good flex option. He's a good card all around. That said, I think Beerus is probably, I would argue Beerus is probably the best red leader at the moment. Just the amount of control he's able to do by his leader ability being able to -10, and you couple that with everything else that has been released over the past 2 sets, like, you've got so much control over the board. You got Gohan, who minuses by 15. You have the 4-drop Gohan crit that minuses by 10. You got the 1-drop Whis. Having a lot of crit, Beerus has a lot of crit options that you can throw into his deck to really slow down your opponent. Just Beerus is doing like a lot for what he is, and it's nice to see that he now that like the meta is kind of shifting to potentially going back to green as being one of the best decks out there. I like Beerus is a good contender to in terms of like keeping yourself like going in the match. So I think Beerus is really good. I like Beerus a lot. This is where I would kind of rank red as it stands right now. Going into set 3, we'll have to see what Jiren does, but I think this looks pretty good, all things considered. All right, let's get into blue. I'm going to say that for Vegeta, I think Vegeta is going to be on the lower end of standout. I think him being the way his teching of being able to play those 1-drop Bulmas, the 4-drop Vegetas that boosts up the leader and stuff like that. Like if you can get on curve and do the things that Vegeta wants to do, I think he could really stand out and be really strong. That said, though, like there's just other blue decks that I think are just doing it better. Once again, he's kind of like starter Ku in the sense. He's kind of like starter Ku in the sense that his ability is very generic and really only benefits himself rather than the rest of the cards that kind of go in his deck. But it's the stuff that's in his deck that makes Vegeta like a better leader than most. It's being able to boost him up through stuff like the cards I mentioned before. You can run the 3-drop Gotenks and going into the 4-drop Gotenks and just run the hybrid Saiyan line like that to keep your hand stocked up on cards. Yeah, I mean, I think Vegeta's really good. I just think there's better stuff than Vegeta, personally. But that's just me. Trunks, I will say, is probably a little bit better than... I would say Trunks is probably a little better than Vegeta. Would I put him in Z tier, though? At this point? I think I'll put him in the high A, high standout. The reason I put him here and not up in Z is just because in the green matchup, Trunks can't really match up to the green matchup. Like when it comes to those 7-cost cards, 7-cost cards, 6-cost, 8-cost, it's really hard for Trunks to be able to utilize his ability. And while he has stuff like Vegito to kind of lower the cost of your opponent's cards, to kind of help with his bouncing effects, you're almost never going to be able to get Trunks to be able to bounce 6 drops back. Not Trunks himself, anyway. It's similar situation to the Vegeta, in the sense that Trunks is it's a similar sense in the fact that Trunks is as good as he is because of the stuff you throw into his deck, and his ability has a lot more usability, in my opinion, than the Vegeta, but at the end of the day, green is doing what green does, and Trunks can have a hard time going up against green. But against everything else in the meta, I think Trunks is actually like abysmal. If green wasn't like as strong as it is currently right now, I would probably say Trunks is up there. But I think that he's here. I think he's a standout leader, and I think he does exactly what you want him, what he does and wants to do is just make sure that you keep the board clear by bouncing stuff back to hand, bouncing stuff to the bottom of your deck, just doing whatever you can to keep the board clear so you can apply some pressure to the leader. Very good card, I think. That said, in terms of blue, when it comes to blue, I would probably say that Goku Black is probably on the low end of Z tier. Goku Black in set 2 got so much support. He got so much support that, like, when it comes to using your leader skill, like, it actually, it's more consistent than it's ever been before. You run strictly Goku Blacks and Zamasus, and it's a fun deck to use too. Like a lot of the cards that Goku Black ended up getting this set are like searchers. So like you got the 3-drop Goku Black that looks for 1-drop Zamasus. You have the 1-drop Zamasus that's able to search for Goku Blacks, which helps you find your 6-drop. You got, like, you can run Gowasus to find Goku Blacks or Zamasus, depending on what it is that you need. But that being in terms of like in terms of combating green too, the 6-drop Goku Black is probably the most consistent thing that's not green that can actually go up against green. Being 40,000, being able to take something from your drop to add to hand, playing something on board for free to add some aggression. The more that I play and fight against Zamasu, the more that I could see him actually being probably the best blue leader as it currently stands in the 2.5 meta. We'll see how he goes into going into set 3, but I think he's just really good. The only downside to Goku Black is that because you're running so many searchers, there is always the possibility that you can whiff and not pull the things that you need off those searchers, and that does feel really bad. That happens on occasion, but I think just due to the fact that you're running as many searchers as you are and you're cycling through your deck that fast, like it's not impossible to believe that the stuff that you're bottom decking you'll find later on in the match anyway. So yeah, I'd say Goku Black's probably up there. That being said, I spoke very highly of Zamasu here. Unfortunately, I will probably put Zamasu. I would say I'd probably put Zamasu just below U7. Zamasu plays heavily defensive because he essentially loses any sense of draw once he awakens. So ideally, you want to defend heavily, like in the early rounds with Zamasu. And I think that just feels a little rough for a defensive leader. Having to always constantly throw your 5k and 10k combo cards to defend the early life as long as possible. It's a viable strat, but depending on what your matchup is going up against, now that Topku is not playing as wide, like now you have to contend with green, and green, it has just so much destructive capability that you can't even really build your board up the way that you want to be able to build your board up to do anything against green. So in that sense, that's why I put Zamasu down lower. But he's a heavy flex. Again, it depends on what your matchup is. If you're going up against like U7 Goku, U7 Goku is able. I only put U7 Goku here because U7 Goku is able to build wide and is able to hit into the awakened Zamasu with relative ease, which can put a lot of pressure on Zamasu itself. Whereas like stuff like Trunks and Vegeta and like a bunch of the other green decks and stuff, even in some yellow decks, Zamasu could actually struggle depending on your matchup. So he could definitely be a standout. But there's times where he could be better in the meta, and I think this is where I would probably put him. So that's blue. Let's go into yellow. I don't know, like we'll go into green. Starter deck Broly. I think Broly is probably a flex. Would I say Broly deck is better than Starter Coup? Maybe. Would I say he's better than Zamasu? I would say that Broly's probably better than Zamasu. Yeah. I had to think about it for a little bit. So I would put Broly probably above Zamasu, mainly due to the fact that Broly, unlike Zamasu, he's able to draw, and he just removes a card from his energy to be able to get that draw off. And he's able to do that consistently every turn. Whereas with Zamasu, you don't necessarily want to always take that third life. Because you don't necessarily want to ramp. You're getting your draw effect with Broly more consistently than you are with Zamasu, in my opinion. And then you take into account, like, Broly's got stuff like, Senzu Bean, which is able to bump him up to 30,000 on defense. He's got, obviously, the 8-drop Broly. He's got double strike androids. Like, it's green. Like, green just has a lot of options in their deck that can just handle handle like a card like Zamasu better than most other decks. That said, though, there's definitely better green leaders out there. There's definitely better green decks. U7 Goku's able to match Broly and his 25k power pretty significantly. Beerus, while he may not necessarily always be able to land into Broly, like, he's able to control the green board a bit better and kind of keep Broly in check. Obviously, Vegeta's able to hit into Broly. Trunks can control the board in the mid game decently well, as well as playing like the Harumaki to be able to boost himself up to 30, swing into Broly. Like, Goku Black has answers to Broly. Like, there's just better stuff than Broly right now, and he didn't get a whole lot of support in set 2. So that's where I put him here. I think Broly has the potential to stand out, but I think he also needs other stuff where, like, to kind of put him back up, like, in contention with other stuff. Then we're going to go into droids. Droids I'm going to put in Z tier. Like, the level of consistency in terms of ramping in droids is crazy. Doing back-to-back 4-drop twins in a row when you're sitting at, like, 5-6 energy is actually pretty crazy. And then obviously, like, you have a lot of tech that you can run with the droids as well. You can run like all the double strikers and play like the 3-drop like Dr. Zero's to reactivate them to swing into them again. You can run the Brolys still in androids. You can run the Cell to gain life back in droids and be able to ramp back up if you need to with relative ease. And then obviously just the leader effect of being able to go up to 30,000 on swing when you're at 6 energy, like, that is a lot of extra pressure that goes onto your opponent. And yeah, like, the droids are just doing a lot. They're doing a lot. I would maybe argue they're probably the best green deck in the format right now. And I would probably say that they're probably a little bit better than Goku Black. Just because they're in terms of consistency, they are a bit more consistent than Goku Black is. Goku Black can still whiff pretty hard due to all the searchability in his deck. Whereas you're not really searching as much with these guys, and you're more than likely going to find your pieces rather than not. So I'll put droids in Z tier. Gohan is unfortunate. I would say Gohan is probably better than Topku right now. He got a lot of good Saiyan support. He's got the Chi-Chi that's able to find Gokus and Gohans. He's got the 3-drop Goku that can ramp himself into your energy after he swings in the early game, which makes him a bit more of a consistent destructive strength while also applying pressure to your opponent. The 2-drop Gohan that's able to give you, that's able to swing for 20 and basically restand one of your energies is really good too in the early game. There's a lot of, like, support that I think that Gohan was able to get. The problem being, though, with Gohan is that with as much removal in the game as there currently is right now, Blue is a lot better at being able to bottom deck and push stuff to hand. Beerus is still strong when it comes to minusing stuff off board and has better options to do so. Green got more KO options. And Yellow is just freezing everything in sight. Playing stuff like the 5-drop, like Goku, that basically, like, helps you to ramp when you use his leader effect. He's just so easy to remove off board at this point, and it feels really bad to have to say that Gohan just isn't consistent enough to go against the rest of the meta. I'm hoping that he gets a bit more support going into next set, because I love the Gohan leader in set 1. Just in almost every matchup, Gohan just has a really, really hard time, like, just keeping up with everything else in the game, and it's a shame. So hopefully in the future, Gohan has a resurgence, and he can kind of go from there. Then in terms of, I think for Cell, I think Cell's a standout. I don't think Cell is quite Z tier, mainly due to the fact that his leader ability is very restrictive. Only being able to use his ability when you're at 5 energy is all fine and dandy if you're able to ramp correctly and on curve every single turn to constantly be able to play the 8-drop Cell. And that's part of the problem with Cell, is that he's heavily reliant on that. He's heavily reliant on that back-to-back Cell play. Getting up to 5 energy, using your leader ability, playing Cell Games Arena to ramp up to 7. Next turn you put something in for 8. 8-drop Cell. Then you have to use leader ability. Then tap Cell Games Arena. It's a fun way to play the deck, and he's good because of that. But it's the matter of you're extremely limited in how you're able to use his leader ability. You have to play Cell a certain way in order to really make benefit of his leader ability. And even then, I think everything that Cell is doing, the droids just do better. They just do better. And strictly only being a 20k leader, Goku Black wipes the floor with him. Every other leader is able to hit into him with ease. It's basically like set 1 format where if you play into Cell fast enough, you could probably take out Cell before he really has a chance to pop off. So, yeah, I'd say Cell's really good. But I think the fact that you're restricted to a certain way of play with Cell actually hurts him more than not. That doesn't make him bad. It makes him, he's really good. It's just a matter of that, he's not really, he's down here because he's limited in what he's able to do. And that's really the gist of it. So, alright, and last but not least, let's get into yellow. Cooler is farmer with a shotgun level. Yeah, Cooler's not good. He got no support in set 2. He got a metal cooler that defends, but you're not really playing the metal cooler meme deck. And then he's got the 1-drop that basically lets you play the 4-drop cooler, maybe a turn sooner, but you're essentially paying the same amount of energy. I don't know. It doesn't. Cooler is just not him. He's not doing anything that really stands out. And his ability, it's a shame because his ability has some utility. Just discarding a card once per turn, being able to either set something on your board back to active or resetting an energy back to active, I think there's some flex options with that. But again, he doesn't have the stuff to really be able to handle anything else in the format. It's a shame. But yeah, hopefully set 3 he gets some stuff. Cooler needs to be. I want to see more coolers in the client, and I hope that ends up happening. But yeah, he's not him. Ginyu, I would say Ginyu's a good flex option. In all honesty, I would probably put him down below Zamasu and Broly. Ginyu still has a hard time going into 25k leaders, just because the Ginyu package itself. Is again, it has a hard time just hitting 25k leaders. He's also a flex option because you're kind of limited in what you're able to run in the Ginyu deck. You're kind of almost exclusively running Ginyu Force cards. And that's not to say you can't run Bulmas for extra draw power. It's not to say you can't put a couple little things here and there in to kind of tweak the deck around a little bit. But his leader ability wants you to run Ginyu Force cards and build wide with Ginyu Force. But that still makes him a good flex option. If Ginyu can pop off and do the things that Ginyu needs to do, and you're not going up against a 25k leader, he could play extremely aggro into almost anything that's in the format. Yeah, I would say Ginyu and the Ginyu deck are actually still really solid even to this moment, and I could see them still having a lot of play going into set 3. But I can't agree with putting them in standout. I just can't. It's just they don't. You need the Ginyu Force to be able to do what Ginyu needs to do, and yeah, like, and it's also dependent on if you're able to draw what you need to. So, I think he's a really good flex option, and he could be he's a lot of fun to play, but yeah, I don't think he's got much going up against Beerus, for example, or Goku Black, personally. So that's just me. Then I would say, then we got Vegeta. I would say, would I put him above U7 Goku? I probably would. I did some games with my buddy Alispare. He's frequent on the channel and on the live streams and stuff. We've been playing this game the past couple days since he's been down, and I tried U7 against like stuff like Beerus and stuff. The only downside with Vegeta is that like if you're not able to hit on curve, then he actually is like more of a flex option than anything else. Beerus is able to minus a lot of the stuff on board. And you know, it's like in terms of what he's able to do, it's also kind of a generic like ability, being able to just bring 2 energy back to active. I've seen some stuff. I've seen some builds of people where I saw like Tarmo Tim. He removed super combos and just relied heavily on the fact that you play like time rewound and stuff like that to keep your board clear. Bonds of the Ginyu Force being a big thing that you could run in him. And then obviously you can still run a lot of freezing tech and like non-KO tech with like the Vegeta and the Goku. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like this Vegeta needs more to really stand out. I don't think he's really doing enough on his own to really like combat against some of the stuff in standout or Z tier here. But that being said, I think he could be a strong flex. I'll probably put him. Yeah, because Zamasu's not really building too crazy wide till late game, so you could maybe get around that with him. Maybe same with Broly. U7 I think is pretty aggro. I'll put him here. I'll put him below U7. Yeah, he's a good flex option. I think there's moments where he can shine, and then there's moments where like it just feels bad to play him. I don't think he's definitely not Z tier, and I don't know if I necessarily put him in bottom tier standout, but Vegeta's pretty good. And then we got Frieza. Frieza, I think, is still a very solid yellow leader. I'd say he stands out in terms of yellow. Where would I put him, probably? I mean, he's able to lock down green pretty good. Blue can definitely bounce stuff back to hand and deck a lot more with Frieza than normal. Minusing with Beerus. I think I'll put Frieza here. Bottom of standout tier. Frieza is just really good. He's able to reset stuff back on your board, back to active. That you can get a lot of utility with like the 1-drop Bulmas because of this. You couple like stuff like Banan being able to like also couple with his ability, and you get 3 cards instead of 2 cards set back to active. You can still run a lot of the freezing options, like with the 4-drop Goku. You got a lot of resting options and self-awakeners, and the 2-drop Frieza, 4-drop Cooler. 3-drop Frieza feels really good in terms of freezing, as long as he's brought back to active, and that has really good synergy with Frieza's leader ability. Frieza's just a solid yellow deck. We'll see how all of this kind of plays out going into set 3, but this is where I kind of see everything. And honestly, it's pretty balanced. Everything's kind of balanced out. I mean, I would say that if there's any color out of all of this that probably is like sitting like the best, I would say probably blue is sitting the best, just because like none of these blue decks could be better. All the blue decks play really good. And green is like green has like 1 or 2 options that could be better, but I mean they're still pretty strong. Red I think is hurting right now because of the ban list, and yellow is probably in the worst position in my opinion. But now that the ban list is out as well, yellow could probably make a resurgence too. So that's gonna do it for this one. This is a long video, guys, but I wanted to at least kind of talk about my thoughts in terms of where the meta kind of stands. This is what it looks like. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I do want to again say thank you guys so much for helping us hit 100 subscribers. I do greatly appreciate the love and support. Thank you guys for all checking out the shorts that we've been putting up. I'm going to try and be more consistent with shorts and videos and stuff like that going forward. On days where I'm not able to record, I'll do shorts, and on days where I'm not doing shorts, I'm probably recording. So just keep that in mind going forward. But I appreciate all the love and support nonetheless. So that's going to do it, guys. Thank you guys so much for the love and support. I will see you guys all in the next video. Peace.